Sandbox. It grew into a large success quickly. First month had like 1 million downloads. In 2018, we built a new version of Sandbox using blockchain. Even though we were accomplished entrepreneur, 3 companies, 3 exits, tens of millions of dollars of revenue, we still got so many rejection and no's. Took us probably 100 of no until like some of investors decided it was the right time for blockchain gaming to invest.
What do you say to people who say Metaverse is dead?
It's a very blunt statement. Have you played some game? Have you tried Metaverse yourself recently?
Most of the time they haven't.
You've reached Toby and Brent. We'll get back to you.
So yes, I'm very, very excited to have you here in Dubai. Finally, we're able to pin you down on your travel schedule. And I've been knowing you for obviously some time now. And, you know, I was one of the very early guys who made an account at Sandbox. So I'm still been following the journey, you know, as always. And I'm very excited to have you here. You guys haven't really met yet. So I just want to take this time to really learn more about how you guys started, where everything came from, obviously the journey of Sandbox as well. But maybe you can just give a little bit of an overview about, especially your background before you started Sandbox. Like, how did this come up?
All right. Well, so right now I'm 40 years old, even though maybe I don't look like it. I don't know.
You kept it in shape.
Thank you. So I graduated from an engineering school in France in network and telecommunication in 2007. I did my last year as an exchange program in Hong Kong at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And that's where I met my co-founder and our business partner, Arthur Madrid. Since then, together for 18 years now, we've like creating various startups, always in new technology. So it's kind of like who I am. I'm a geek, an early adopter, always the latest toys, electronics, gadgets, and playing around with technologies. Back then, in 2007, I was like developing open source code for peer-to-peer technology, BitTorrent. Nice. So in a way, the first application of decentralization. And my co-founder at this startup that was delivering basically high definition video for sports events or like Roland Garros or Catch-Up TV. So as soon as I finished that program, I came back to France. We started to work together. That company has been like serving a lot of video on demand website for like TV channels in France. Was acquired a year later. We've co-founded next like a company that was about like uploading your photo, video, and music in the cloud. Before it was even called the cloud, and sharing it with friends to play it online. Before that was like Spotify or Netflix and so on. It grew big as well. We were able to sell it 2 years later. And then after that, we kind of like were able to accomplish one of my childhood dreams, which was like making my own video games. And since I got my first console, I think it was Super Nintendo back then with Super Mario World, my first game, I really got hooked into games. I literally had every console on the day of their launch, played a lot of video games while still like studying and being very serious and so on, right? And I said, one day I love to make my own video game. So that's kind of what I look like, you know, like everybody asks himself, like, what do you want to do in the future? Like, what's your going to be like your job, your career, and so on. I said, I love games. Why don't I try to make one? And then I looked at, okay, what kind of studies should I do to actually make video games? There were very few like game programming school or game creation school. The barrier to entry to the game industry was extremely high. When you look into it, like console are like, you need specific hardware. Game production was expensive. There was not a lot of studio. It was not very democratized with smartphone until smartphone came in. And that when smartphone came in, there was really that moment where it felt like almost like the beginning of the startup era, where like anyone or two guys in a garage can create a company, can create their own mobile app or their own mobile game and launch it and make it become a success and become a bigger company afterward, like the story of Microsoft, Bill Gates, and so on. And I say, wow, this is the right moment to jump into making video games again. So like we had a few success before, exits and so on. Let's do our first mobile game studio, which we did in 2011. And at that time I said, well, great, I kind of accomplished the dream. I started it, but that's not enough. Like what if I was not the only one who wanted to make video game? What if like anyone could make video games in an even simpler way, where like they don't need to like start a game company or learn programming on iOS or Android with C# and so on.
Right.
And basically we found like, wow, like there's all this thing about no coding, and like maybe we could use a smartphone and touch screen. So you touch a screen and it has this kind of magic feeling when you touch and you see that pixels reacting very instantly. Like before, the technology was clunky. You had like the stylus and it was not reactive. But with touchscreen, there was really this magic feeling. And so
to
you
make this easy.
Yeah, and then we played around the concept. You know what? Let's make you like a god, and you create virtual world with your hands. Pixel drops and they react with laws of physics, and you implement the periodic table of elements. And that was the first game we launched, called the Sandbox. Back then, it was just this 2D pixel art game. But it grew into a large success quickly. First month had like 1 million downloads.
Damn.
Something that people loved as well, and we took as a past experience, is like uploading your own content. So we saw it at the beginning of user-generated content games. Like we saw YouTube, the rise of success of YouTube, and uploading your video, streaming them. We saw like the beginning of Minecraft, obviously, but there was not Minecraft on mobile by then. It was still a PC game. So there was a large avenue. So if we were a 2D Minecraft on mobile, you can create on the go, share your creation with friends, and others can actually play it. And that was one of the reasons that really turned the Sandbox into a success. Over 8 years, we had like 40 million downloads to that game, 70 million creation made by the players.
Wow.
We learn our way into the video game industry, what is live ops, how you constantly need to update your game to keep your audience engaged, what is retention, what is all the strategy for user acquisition and monetization. And we figure out as well a major problem into most of those games. Like, people love to create, that's for sure. They get more engaged, you increase your retention, but they don't live out of passion only. Basically, like, passion is a great motivator initially. Social fame is something that can bring on the best of people, so they retain, they keep sharing. But at some point, we were struggling with the idea, like, how, you know, like as a game company, we're getting more users and making the revenue, well, based on mostly on the content made by other users. And we have no way to actually share it back to those creators. You know, like trying the creator economy is a concept that we're very keen on too. And we were trying to actually make and send payments to some of the creators that contributed the most to Sandbox back then. And to be honest, it was really painful as a process. Like, you cannot do it with the App Store or Google Play Store. If you want to send some money to one of your players, you have no way to know who are the players, their identity. Even if they create an account, at best you get their email, or if they have a nickname on the game, you try to match them with a social profile and reach them manually to then like have some conversation, propose a contract, make them sign a contract, and make a payment, electronic payment with PayPal. So you see all those hard steps at best. Even though I was super close to our top creator, I could manage, it was myself, like 100 payment a month toward those creators, not scalable. And like, we were really struggling at that point, and we were seeing our top creators leave after months or years in the game. And it was a bit, I was frustrated. Still, like, as usual, I keep dabbling with new technology, exploring, geeking out and testing, and discover about blockchain in 2017. I start like reading a lot about the Bitcoin white paper, and I say, I don't understand a thing about this. What is it? Like, I need to like get deeper into the technology, try it myself, so I really feel what it is. And I bought my first miner. I started to mine at home. I said, oh, now I start to understand how it works, the proof of work and so on. I see it in action in front of me. It's more tangible. And next, I do that research and I get much more interested into that area of blockchain. The first blockchain game came out, like CryptoKitties, out of nowhere, like a simple game with you breed virtual cats on the website. So if you don't know what CryptoKitties is, essentially it's a game where you breed those virtual cats, 2D. They are very ugly, but people love breeding them. And so I was like, why is this game successful? Like we've already seen so many games breeding any kind of animals or eggs, like Tamagotchi and so on. There's nothing special. And so again, I think after so many years in the video game industry as a professional, I became a bit perverted in a way, like you no longer play game for fun. Every time you play a game, the first thing that comes to mind, a little bit as an entrepreneur, is like you deconstruct everything from the game. Like what was the user experience, what's the business model, how was it made, how much it cost, why are the key reasons for the success of that game. Right. So you analyze it until like you figure out like this is probably the best thing that I can take away from that product and apply the same recipes to mine to be successful. And we deconstructed the game. We understood three things essentially. Like first is like, actually you buy the cat from other players, not from the developer itself, which is really new in the gaming industry. Normally like trading between players is just kind of like a black market that's always been forbidden by the game studios. You were at risk of getting your account banned and losing everything back then. The second is you even didn't buy those cats on the game itself, but on an external website, a sort of like eBay of virtual cats. It was called OpenSea. Like, wow, mind-blowing. Like there's a marketplace where people can buy and sell content and it's allowed. And you know what? They don't pay with credit card and fiat and so on. They pay with cryptocurrency, ETH. And I realized like a lot of people looked at it as well and they were launching like, I don't know, dogs, dragons, fish, whatever copycat they could, which always happen when there is a one hit game, there will be quickly a lot of copycats and industries that follows. Right. We found that what if like anyone could make their own virtual cat, their own NFTs actually, because those cats, the cryptocurrencies were the first NFTs. And that was like, but wait, if I apply that to Sandbox, all those creations made by my community, they were those NFTs, then they can sell it on the marketplace outside of my game. They can receive payment in crypto directly without easy and without me as a middleman in the middle. And like they could monetize all their content and their time. So that was really that revelation moment where I finally found a technology that can allow to scale and solve a problem that I have been struggling with. And that's where in 2018, we decided to say, let's build a new version of Sandbox using blockchain. And it's been the beginning of that new journey you say you were playing, I don't know when you started playing Sandbox, 2020, 21 maybe, 22?
End of 20.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's super early.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we were that
must have
so
changed.
You looked at it.
Thinking about that, wow, Sandbox changed so much.
Like the fun thing is, because like a lot of people don't know that Sandbox wasn't always blockchain. Right. And like, because like the main thing when like a lot of people knew about it was like 2021, right? Like roughly that the big NFT gaming hype that happened. Mm-hmm. And obviously then everybody knew about it. And it was kind of like the talk of the town as well, right? But like, it's very interesting that this wasn't just like in 2020, it's like, oh, let's do it, right? This was like a journey.
Yeah, it really comes from a whole journey, a personal experience, personal frustration as well, getting so close to the creators.
And it's very interesting. I'd love to understand, like, obviously the name Sandbox, right? How did it come? How did you come up with this name?
Oh, wow. Well, back in 2011, I was probably iterating and looking on the App Store, like what names are available for an application. I was trying let's try Sandbox game, Sandbox 3D. At some point it was supposed to be called Sandbox 3D or something like that. Yeah. So Sandbox pixel art, Sandbox 2D. And then I said like, well, wait. I like to be the Sandbox. Like you're actually the best event and not best event. Like that's just something that this small particle has a meaning. And I look into it everywhere and said like, well, nobody thought it to be called like the one. Like, okay, we'll take it. We'll register that. And I think it built a great brand.
I think why we like the best event is because like, the is specific. And actually where I got this from was because my mom has an apartment. And you don't speak German, right?
Yeah. Ich spreche Deutsch.
And my mom called our apartment Die Auszeit.
Oh, nice.
But then she was like, no, we call it Das Auszeit. And I was like, okay.
Der.
But it's obviously wrong, right? I mean, it's not really wrong, but it's like wrong from a first perception because like it sticks.
Okay.
And now it's like, it's booked all the time. Because like it's now a specific thing.
Is it because of like a D and Z is so close?
Yeah, exactly.
Early? Okay.
So like, but that's the same thing, right? There might be 1,000 Sandbox, but there's only one the Sandbox, right? There might be a lot of good events, a lot of best events, but there's only the best event, right? So it's like the same thing, and it reminded me of the Sandbox.
I don't know, sometimes like you don't think so much, it just sticks. Like say, the Sandbox is so simple, it's just so sticky, it's 2 words,
it's
perfect
simple,
for SEO, etc. I take it,
No, it's a fascinating story, and I love that he's always been dabbling around with emerging technology and like and all these things. But coming with emerging technology, and I mean, we have invested in a lot of emerging tech companies. It's you have all these challenges that come with emerging tech, right? I mean, it sounds so simple. It's like, oh, we do this, and we deployed $40 million, and we moved the whole thing into blockchain, and it became a success.
Ooh, well.
But obviously, it is not like this, right? I mean, It was probably very challenging. So maybe you can just go into a little bit, like, especially the early, when you guys launched it in like 2020, like sort of from 2018, the decision, hey, like, I get it, this makes sense. This technology is incredible. It solves all the problems. So you don't have to sit there and do like hundreds of payments every day and your creators don't leave. But like, how was that transition? Like just building a game on blockchain? I mean, many people have tried it and failed, right? A lot of people. So what was the kind of learnings and how was the journey?
So, well, obviously from my background in engineering, I'm someone who like very focused on the product side at first. And then I understood like you need strategy, go to market, and like not just like plans. Like I'm very, I wouldn't say afraid. I'm very allergic to just like plans and a lot of words and like, okay, but concretely, like how do you do it? Like how did you measure? What's your KPI? Where did you see that? And well, that led us actually to think of like, okay, let's build a product first. Let's really focus on who we're going to target as a key audience. When we built the mobile game, our first audience was like pixel artists, people who love to draw. And that's where existing communities like DeviantArt and so on, where people were sharing pixel art all the time on the web and say, you know what, we're going to reach out to them. Actually, I think I reached out manually to 100 of them, and for 3 to 6 months, we gave with test flight beta version, and we paid people $10 per pixel art they were doing with Sandbox to put it in a gallery. So at the launch, the game didn't look empty. A user-generated content game that has no content at the launch, it's nonsense. Like you need to show some great content for inspiration and for people feel like there is already a community and they understand the potential. So we had 1,000 pixel art made with the game prior to the launch as part of our go-to-market strategy, understanding which community we start with, how we explain the feature and make it like wow. And that was kind of like how like the mobile version also started and contributed to a success. The second thing I understood quickly as well is like you need to plan with live ops. So even if you launch a product, launch isn't like the end. It's just the beginning of a long journey. Games are like services or platform nowadays. So you need to constantly plan for what are going to be your next content updates, events, monetization, and so on. So instead of like putting all the best effort only for the launch, we say, okay, wait. Like we have this great product, but there's too much content. So I'm going to cut it, remove. And all the content we had here, like we kept it for the next 2 updates. So then I have time to adapt at the launch and be 2 cycles ahead on my next updates when I'm going to launch content. So I can manage it as a service. And then like something that happened as well, is like we were not constantly fundraising. Like actually, that game company that produced the first version on Sandbox on mobile, we fundraised in 2010, I think, around $500,000. And that's it. After I didn't need to raise. We found a publisher because again, like at that time, we were really new to mobile gaming. I had no connection with the stores. We were learning a lot the world of like mobile game development and publishing. So we found a publisher. That publisher was helping us initially getting featured on the App Store and getting some press. I quickly realized that the only thing that mattered was like being exposed on the App Store as editorial picked application. And that publisher, unfortunately, was a bit too much French or European and not focusing on the US game market. So I tried my best to go in San Francisco to meet with Apple. I'll get back to that story a bit later. And show them the product, show them why it's so special, and try to get that featuring. There's been We launched. They did their job, but at some point I got frustrated as well as a founder. Like, okay, like I think they don't give in us like we're the game that maybe we're their best launch. That game made I don't know 30-50% of their revenue after 2 months for them as a publisher, and they don't push us constantly enough to get more media, more users. So I started to get frustrated for like what they were taking as a revenue share versus what value they brought. And I decided, like, okay, you know what? Let's stop. Like, I will take back everything. It was a hard moment, hard decision here as well on the funding side. Like, we had to breaching that contract means like we were agreeing on a commercial term to pay them a certain amounts in advance to hand things. But that was also our best decision ever at that point. Like, we were able to take full control back. We were hungry for growth appetite. We were really looking at the maximum we could get, and we delivered on the execution. So that was a key decision we did for Sandbox, to learn from the best, but see if the best didn't support you over time, like basically execute even better afterwards. We didn't fundraise more after the year with that studio. So that's a game like we built, and when we were self-sustained on the development for the game for so many years.
Can I ask you a quick question, just out of personal understanding?
Yeah,
it's like if you have a publisher, right, and then they eventually said we don't want to work with you anymore because you're not really doing exactly what we need. But what's the publisher's job? Like they're supporting you with capital, or like they're just like making sure you.
They might have like invest in the development of the game. So usually they don't invest in the studio itself in equity. They will just fund like the development, and they will take recouping over the future revenue that game will generate.
It's like a revenue share.
Yes, they will support like the marketing, the press, the media, the getting you exposed on the different store to ensure you have a certain number of like downloads or installs and revenue. And not every publisher, of course, are lazy, I would say, or never delivering enough. Like some were really good. They're still very helpful for the game industry, but we thought like, and some people in the game industry enjoy that. And you know what? I am shy. I don't want to do like media. I don't care about press. Marketing is marketing. I don't want to touch that. I want to stay developing my game, and that's it. But as an entrepreneur, I think I've done 2 other startups before. I'm more like the multi-hat guy. Like, oh no, like I want to go deep down in every detail of every aspect of the company to make sure like it works. The plan is executed well. And so that wasn't fitting for us at the end. Like we felt like they were a great partner at launch, but afterwards we wanted more, and that was no longer aligned with their objective and resources.
But having just one second, because I'm very interested in this. So because we meet so many gaming founders out there, right? And so it's very crucial that you have a really good game publisher. Is that like really?
If you don't know how to publish game, if you don't have like that network of like whatever nowadays, like it would be more like streamers, influencers, press and media, store relationship for the distribution and featuring. You could save a lot of time and energy and traveling and building those relationships as well with by hiring them. I don't say that they are not necessary. That every role is important. It's more a personal choice and matter of like what matters you the most at certain point of time. What do you want to focus? Do you want to focus only on the product? Do you want to learn the distribution and manage that part as well? And like we started with Paper because we didn't have the knowledge, the know-how, the network, the connection, and so on. And initially was very grateful, but after a while, I also saw the value they can bring. There's like some plateau. It's not fair as our revenue scale up as a game company that we keep having the same revenue share while like the value we get in return.
And I think it's also very similar to like books, right? With like book publishers and like the back and forth with like authors and like where do we want to publish it? How much like revenue split we're like getting, especially as it gets more and more successful. And that's why I'm very curious how you I've been a gaming nerd my like whole life, playing a lot of games from Age of Empires, Counter-Strike, like the very early days, like those type of games. What kind of like led you guys to going into Web3 and blockchain like in the 2020s, and like how you guys thought about leveraging blockchain technology? Because for us, even as investors, seeing so many gaming projects go, we need Web3 versus like, we actually want to create a good game or an ecosystem first before we're like putting the technology at the forefront. You guys did that very, very well. Maybe kind of explain that, because I think a lot of founders we talk to just try to put the technology first versus like creating an environment that gamers and builders want to be.
So you're right, like it should be a combination of content and technology to build like successful product and services. We had like all that history and relationship and frustration that led us like to find a solution to the creator economy and monetization. So that blockchain came as a solution, but it's not like putting blockchain as a label on Sandbox that was sufficient. You're right. Like we had to rethink the whole strategy and product from the beginning to incorporate blockchain while offering great content and user experience. So we saw it as an opportunity to basically start Sandbox from scratch. Instead of making it a 2D mobile game, we would be doing a 3D multiplayer and multi-platform game. Why is that? It's like we also analyze the success of Sandbox. We say it's great. It's been 8 years, $40 million, a great revenue in 7 to 8 figures a year. And wow, why are we not at the scale of Minecraft or Roblox? Like why we don't have 100 million of users and 1 billion of revenue? You know, I'm kind of like the entrepreneurs and I'm never satisfied. Like, oh no, it's great, cool. Like now we can rest. No, he does better. So there must be a reason. So we looked at that and we figured out like 2D pixel art game is a shrinking market. Like as I'm born in 84, the 80 generation, we've grown into like pixel and retro console, 8-bit, 16-bit, and so on. We kind of like enjoy those games. The next generation, people born in the 90s and after, they were born with 3D game. They don't even have that idea that there was a 2D pixel game before. Right. They don't have that nostalgia. Yeah. So the size of the market of people who enjoy 2D pixel game, even though some indie developers think it's cool, it's definitely shrinking. The second thing is like multiplayer game are much more successful because they have this K factor, so it's viral and social factors that's inherent. And like if you like a game in that multiplayer, you invite your friend. So if you acquire a user, means 2 more users can come with just the core gameplay. That's great for growth. Like that's how like imagine you pay for acquiring 1 user, brings 2 more. Like so you divide your costs of acquisition essentially. And that didn't happen with Sandbox on mobile. It was a 2D single player game. Yeah. So we thought we are going to apply that, and also having already an economy in place where we were selling all those virtual elements for virtual currency. There's already an unlimited supply, inflation, and so on. So we better start from scratch to implement properly the notion of digital scarcity, whether it was avatar, lands, or content for the creators. We built the different tools for creating the 3D content, and we built a tool that added value to the existing open source tool like Magica Voxel by introducing VoxEdit. We have the marketplace, we have our map, and at that time was also a pivotal moment for us because we were acquired. Like in 2018, we started the conversation for the acquisition of that game studio. We met and we spoke with a few companies. In the end, like Animoca Brands, which back then was not like this top investor in Web3 with 500 companies in their portfolio. They were a mobile game studio like us with one key focus: publishing successful games from the West into the East. So basically introducing to China, Korea, and Japan by localizing those games. Mobile gaming was a very fragmented market with 3 core markets for the revenue: the US, where we are, and Japan and China. And even more, like again, like we're successful in US, but we didn't know how to enter the Japanese market. It's not just like localizing the text inside the game. So you need to work with a publisher again in those regions to learn and do one, right? And we tried. We met a few times. We ended up not working together as a publisher. We didn't find the right commercial terms or like the right way to launch it. Anyway, we stayed in touch. So that's also one key lesson. Like it's not because you don't work with someone at some point of time that you should break and never give them update. Like keep from time to time when you meet them at conference, have like a quick coffee, tell them about what you're doing now, what you're thinking. That's what we did regularly every 3 months, 6 months, sharing about what we are. And it happened that They were the publisher of CryptoKitties in China. And they were very early interested into blockchain game and NFTs. We moved into blockchain NFT because we looked at CryptoKitties, and we were one of the very few game studios into that whole room of tens of thousands of people attending a game industry conference interested in blockchain. So we have something in common again to look into. And conversation went through even more. It was the right time. They acquired a few game studios before on mobile publishing. Nice. Great synergy, great value addition. We work on blockchain game. We have Sandbox. We bring to blockchain. They know like publishing. They have the money to help us scale, the know-how. Great marriage that keeps on going today. We're very happy with Animoca Brands, of course. And they've always been super supportive through that journey. In 2019, we spin it off Animoca Brands, and we started to fundraise again for Sandbox. I think we first raised a seed round in 2019 of $4.5 million. Back then, it was backed by Hash, Square Enix. It is in a way, but it was not easy. What people might not know is like further journey. Even though we were accomplished entrepreneur, 3 companies, 3 exits, we built games, made tens of millions of dollars of revenue, tens of millions of users, and so on. We still got so many rejection and no's, and like people were like, you will not be able to achieve that. There's already Minecraft. What if Minecraft has blockchain? So you have the biggest competitor. And basically, like, again, like that's a barrier of like you always have to prove yourself that you can achieve something, so people will trust you, you get a deliver. And so took us probably 100 of no until like some of investor decided like blockchain game. It was the right time for blockchain gaming to invest. Hash was one of the first investors together with Animoca Brands, True Global Venture and Square Enix to decide to back us. Interestingly, it was mostly Asian investors. So somehow they understood something there that the US or Europe didn't get yet. And he told me kind of like also a lesson, like to be resilient, never take no as an answer, always think of it as an opportunity to improve, to stay in touch, or to think through like, okay, like they don't believe I can do it now. Like, so what can I prove? No, not just talk again. Like you have to just build a product, show there is some growth, show a roadmap, or think of another market that might be more receptive to what you do if like that current market isn't yet sufficiently educated.
And even someone like yourself, to all the founders out there complaining about how hard it is to fundraise, 100 no's, still raised it, still built a large company, and didn't complain about it. Yeah, I mean,
it's a whole story. Like NFTs are dead, Metaverse is dead. Fast forward, like you will constantly be challenged, and like the best way to prove that wrong is not to keep saying no, it's not dead. It's like, okay, let's look. Maybe US market for some reason, SEC regulation couldn't jump into crypto and Web3 later on. Europe was less interested into Metaverse for various reasons. But you know what? Like we put all our effort in Asia, and that we saw massive growth, massive adoption, a lot of brands partner with us. We were able to do our the best partnership and land sales on Sandbox in Hong Kong, in Korea, in Japan, in India, in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Thailand, and even in Turkey. Now, like here we are in Dubai. The MENA region is very interested. Saudi Arabia, the UAE as well. So I do think, like again, like the world is never like pure black or white. The world is not flat. Like there's different views, different market appreciation and reception, and it's just like you have to navigate as a founder to identify, okay, how. Basically, I go around or away from a certain challenge. Where do I find my growth and my go-to-market and my audience and so on?
Yeah, and so I guess what is taking it to today now with Sandbox? Like, what are the kind of latest updates? Like, where are you guys headed next kind of 6-12 months?
So,
what's important for you guys?
Well, today Sandbox is around 6.3 million users with a wallet. We kept growing over a million a year. We have brought a lot of new users to Web3 for the first time. I think more than half of them. We have over 400 major brands and partners. So it's been one of the main success factors of Sandbox, onboarding top brands from the likes of Snoop Dogg back in the days. More recently, we brought like Attack on Titan, Jurassic World, Deepak Chopra, or we had like famous K-pop band 80s. Bruce Lee just entered Sandbox. So various legends across like different thematics that contributed again to attract their fans, make them enjoy new experience, collect digital rewards, and even create their favorite games with their favorite content and celebrities and so on.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We also have like over 2,300 experiences live on the map made by creators, so you can play Sandbox at any time, even though the best and more active moments are when we have those seasons ongoing. Last year, season 4, we closed the year with season 4 with 580,000 unique players. And this year, instead of having one season a year, we decided to launch 3. So we're right in the middle of a season called Alpha Season 5. That introduced some of those brands I just mentioned. And we keep improving the product. So we constantly release updates for creators to make new cool things. We added like the flying feature, much better graphics. So improving the feeling of immersion, the quality of the graphic, the loading speed, and the possibilities in Metaverse. I feel sometimes like we get a little bit too much in the limelight too early versus like what the product capabilities were. So
what do you mean by that?
You know, like when all the narrative and Facebook rebranded itself as Meta around 2021, everyone was interested into Metaverse 2021, but the technology wasn't so compelling in the end, right? Horizon was nothing close from like the advertising material they were putting everywhere on the streets, and Sandbox was still a very simple game with not a great graphic and not a great diversity of experience. Every year it improved. 3-4 years later it's like night and day, and still like you wish like you had that big wow moment at that time. Sometimes you feel like, hey, people who came in 2021, they saw, that's the Metaverse. Are they really going to come back and try again 4 years later? I think they could. It's more a matter of like, hey, let's look, like this is how we change. This is all the great content that we have. You know, have the creator economies in place with the marketplace. Creator made revenue. Some of our builders made anywhere to 6 to 7 figure or more in Sand. And we'll keep showing like the possibilities of the technology, but with great content, great creative tool. And we know it will take time. Like I'm also together with my co-founder and our team, we are realistic on the timeline that things take. I think like because we've been already close to 20 years in the industry, we kind of see like every major technological disruption takes 10 plus years, sometimes 15, to move from like this is the early moment of like, wow, this is very cool, we can test this, etc., to like this is the mainstream moment for adoption. A little bit back we were saying at the beginning, I think about like music technology and MP3 player before the iTunes, the iPod. I had every single like MP3 player as a gadget. Before the smartphone, I had all the Palm Touch with all the different kind of screens, etc. I was playing around, so I saw it. And then I had also all the BlackBerry. Like I saw those, and I saw like it's always constant iteration and improvement of things that makes suddenly a great product. I don't think the iPhone will have come alone straight right after the Nokia 3310 without anything in the between that people had a lot of, hey, what if like LG didn't launch their first phone with a camera that's decent with 1.3 million pixels in the middle, and they started to promote it as a camera tool instead of a phone? What if we didn't have all those Palm and other devices where people were starting to work and having application? Like I think, so basically, I guess like we're seeing the same in the console and gaming world. We're seeing the same with here, like Web3 in general. And every improvement, every small iteration contributes to greater change and also to broaden the market and the audiences. Interestingly, we are not all competing for the same audience in a way. Like now you see a lot of games, a more mature game coming from AAA or to AA studios. They pick new chains. Those new chains and ecosystem, they have different audience as well.
Yeah.
So they benefit from the network effect and distribution effect, the distribution network from those new chains, which also brought new users. Solana, Avalanche, Immutable, they have different users than the core Ethereum or Bitcoin users and so on. And that's how I see it, like essentially constantly. And that's why I'm never kind of like giving up in a sense like it's impossible. There is no audience for what we are doing, or like it's so difficult to find our market.
But like, what do you say to people who say like blockchain gaming is dead? What do you say to people who say Metaverse is dead? Which obviously you probably hear from some.
Yeah, well, I think I think it's a very blunt statement. Have you played some game? Have you tried Metaverse yourself recently?
Most of the time they haven't.
And well, they're just following a narrative. Blockchain game, to be honest, has never been as active and alive than ever. Like I think we were somewhere around 7 million active DAUs. The challenge though is like, it's the technology being so seamless integrated now as wallet, account abstraction, other features are more deployed than ever. Like you might not know this is strictly purely a blockchain game. The second thing is those ecosystems are much more fragmented than before. So actually you have like Telegram Town, the Telegram Open Network with a lot of games. Those games can grow to millions of users in a matter of days. It's still very active. You have Avalanche and Gunzilla, 12 million plus users as well. You don't see there's blockchain involved. There's this Korean publisher doing this new MMO game with 500 players per instance. Like blockchain only comes at level 40 in that game. You have, I don't know, like MapleStory, the new game from Nexon that's coming with blockchain. It's still a MapleStory game that will have hundreds of millions of users before people get to do things with blockchain in it as well. So it's far from that, actually. And I think there's never been more interest into the technology as like the traditional model of monetization in the gaming industry that prevailed for so many years, free to play, is more challenged than ever. The 2024 has actually been the worst year in the game industry in terms of like studio closure, layoff, people losing their job, a lot of elements contributing to that with inflation, the general market situation, war, and so on. The fact that people are spending less and less into entertainment and other products, and the fact that there's been more regulation around the world around like data collection and privacy, which really directly affected the ability from game studio to target directly users based on their preference and audience. Yes. So if you cannot target users specifically based on what they like, etc., you have to just hope that the general user match. So like the cost of acquisition has increased, the revenue per user has decreased significantly. Some studios couldn't absorb the runway in the middle needed to keep running. Their margin was literally too small, and that led to those closure. And that's one thing that people don't realize when they think like mobile gaming is successful. It's like, no, it's not. Because even if you think you're earning $1 billion a year, if you reinvest 900 million of it back into user acquisition, giving it back to the platform, the one who wins is not the game studio. At the end, is the platform that serves you to do the distribution or the advertiser. So you just keep feeding someone else, and does all that value, all that effort you brought and so on, like it doesn't go fairly back to the studio who created the game or... And you can think of the top grossing, but at any scale of the game industry is like this. So I do think actually it's an opportunity finally to see more experimentation in video game, more research of like what will be the next big success model. Web3 alone isn't an answer. Like we've seen various iterations of play to earn. We see different attempt at like, what if we sell the NFTs early to fund the game, to what if we have a token and some economy in our game. We already saw the limitation of all those different models, but that doesn't mean we should stop there. We should keep iterating until someone will figure like hopefully one way to replicate that success for more studios. We know it will just take one hit game again to kick off everything, and other creators will follow.
There's always that one.
Yeah.
It's always the one. And then all the people that said gaming is dead are going to be right in front of your door again.
Yeah.
But that's also the beauty, right? I think because it also brings out a lot of the noise out of the market. Because like now, like you have a lot more legitimate people that are actually here, not just because they think this can make a lot of money, because like, I mean, hearing you talk, right? It's like you have an intrinsic belief that this is the future, right? Because it solves so many problems you had when you were doing this for many, many years before you had the technology that enabled to basically solve all these problems. But a lot of people, they're like, not as long-term. They're just more like, oh, I want to do a token. I want to, do all these type of things and move away. So it's great that these people are effectively getting pushed out of the market because they're not doing anyone any good.
Well, effectively, unfortunately, you probably see that as an investor as well. Like you get approached, they have great plan for launching a token. They might not yet measure properly what's the impact of having a token. Like what raising money is actually taking debt. Like some entrepreneur go as far as say like you should not celebrate your fundraising milestone because you're actually digging yourself into a bigger hole where you have to raise at a bigger valuation, meaning you will have to deliver bigger result, bigger revenue, and so on. I partially agree with that, but token as well, like you're introducing something that you need to deliver value on your community. It's a whole product you need to work on to support beside the game or service you launch. And you are very much, even like token price is important to drive user to your product. Like token price is not a function of the quality of your product alone. It's very much subject to what like the bigger market force. So whatever Bitcoin will do, whatever like the general macro of economic and inflation will do, you will see it reflected right away in Bitcoin and all those other tokens that exist. And there's been no sufficient economic force from a pure game perspective to fight back. Because like which game has like an active economy where every day people are trading hundreds of millions of dollars worth of their game token, right?
Yeah.
So be careful as well about just that
That's
fact.
a good point. Yeah. That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say. This has been an amazing conversation, but I think we've definitely gone way over
time. We're probably good on to 3 hours at this point.
I was going to say, we definitely set the record. But yeah, man, we really appreciate you coming on. I guess any kind of like last words or thoughts to the kind of community and like what's kind of coming up next for you guys, or any shout outs you have?
Well, first of all, we continue building at Sandbox, delivering like on our strengths and doubling down on them, like new brands, partnership to be announced, new season coming out, new product update. I think the one thing I'm getting the most excited about this year is the idea that the virtual world and everything we've built around Sandbox is only, people thought it was the Sandbox. What if it was just like one tiny portion of what the Sandbox is? Let me explain. Nice. Like Metaverse is all about being able to use your digital asset and your avatar to play across different worlds and games. It's great. It's fantastic narrative, like being able to move across, but nobody did it. Like interoperability, for the technical word we use, is the idea like I can use my game item across many games. But again, like who actually did it besides Sandbox to implement features for other game assets? So we want to focus on that. We want to launch more standalone games on all different platforms that we have right now in co-production with partners Game Studio that will really allow you to connect you can play them standalone for free to play model, no crypto, no wallet. But if you do have a Sandbox account, you will be able to play with your avatars, your sand, your land, and do many other things connected to that. So that's one thing. The second is like, I think like the strength of Sandbox is not into like only the game maker or the virtual world that people play. Actually, very few people tend to like Sandbox or have some sand token or some land eventually, but they never played Sandbox. They never created in Sandbox, which I still encourage you to try. Like if you listen to this podcast, be curious, try it. It's amazing. You might find your next passion here as a creator. But if you didn't, you know what? Like I feel like it's also fine. Like Sandbox, becoming this big brand, can also like do more things that's like work for like the non-creators and non-players. And like that means like we have to figure out and launch something that will connect more application, all our brands, and allow people to interact even more with Web3 without being a player or a creator.
Amazing. I hope that launches in that way and form, and I hope then we can do a part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Because we're still waiting on that Apple story you were about to tell, but I'm not sure if you can summarize it.
Well, interestingly, like the people that back then, the people in charge of the editorial team at Apple that we met in San Francisco and working with us to promote the mobile game. He's working with us at Sandbox now, so we hired him, and he's in charge of this program called the Voxel Games program, where we are publishing other games. He's in charge of Chief Content Officer and in charge of the US office of Sandbox. So it's also great to see keep your mind open. Like some of the people who are your collaborator, your partner, the business developer who reached out to you a few years back, if you like their skills, if you think they can evolve and they like what you're doing, could become your next great asset and employees in your company to keep building your journeys. That was kind of my next takeaway.
That's why always keep in touch and never cut the channel, right? And maybe at some point in the future, there's maybe the best event with the Sandbox edition. We'll see.
We'd love to host that. Yes,
absolutely.
Definitely.
No, thank you so much, really, for coming on. I know you have a packed schedule this week and you're putting out now 50 minutes with us. Really, really appreciate it. The time just flew by. And I really hope that we can do a part 2, maybe at some point in time in Paris or something. We'll figure it out to make your life easy. But again, really thanks for coming on. And again, always a pleasure to have you on.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll get back to you.
See you in the Metaverse. Go try Sandbox.
Awesome.
Amazing.